After days of bickering and collation, governorship candidate of People's Democratic Party, Siminalayi Fubara, has been declared winner of the 2023 general governorship elections in Rivers State. The state returning officer of the elections, Professor Akpofure Remuke, who announced the results, says Siminalayi Fubara scored a total of 392,614 votes to defeat his closest rival, Tonya Cole of the All Progressive Congress, who scored 95,274 votes. Also, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has declared the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Sheriff Oborewore, winner of Delta State governorship election, defeating candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Ojougboh Agege. Joining us now on the morning show from our Abuja studios to discuss the election results so far is Arise News analyst Frank Tietie and Dr. Cairo Ojougboh, Pro-Tem Secretary General, National Coalition for Peace and Unity, NCPU. Great to have you both on the show. I'd like to take your reactions, Dr. Cairo Ojougboh, as regards the election results, despite all the violence in Rivers State that coming out of Rivers State this morning. And Frank Tietie, Sheriff Oborewore is now governor of Delta State. What's your take on that? Is it safe to say the first governor of Ojougboh extraction in Delta State? I'll come to you first, Dr. Cairo Ojougboh, and then Mr. Frank Tietie, I'll come to you.
Thank you. First of all, let me say thank you for having me this morning on this matter. Well, you know, I'm from Delta State, and for those of us in Delta, at times you hear the Urhobos say that Ojougbohs or the Ojougbohs, they say they are not Urhobos, and some Urhobos say Ojougbohs are not Ojougboh. But as far as we are concerned in Delta, there's no difference between Ojougboh and Urhobos. All of them are Urhobos. At least the dialect they speak, they understand each other, and for that we think that this is an Urhobo slot for this particular session of elections, and the Urhobos have taken their turn. And then for me personally, I'm an APC member, and I congratulate the candidate, Sheriff Oborewore, who has been declared the winner. He's not governor yet. He will be governor after inauguration on the 29th of May. Well, the elections in Delta State went as expected because of issues that played out before and during the election. So I don't want to delve into that much, but I congratulate the candidate. You can see that even yesterday, Ojougboh, who was part of us before he left to go and contest in Abga, also congratulated the declared candidate. The candidate of NNPP also congratulated Oborewore too. Well, the issue in Rivers State, I haven't listened much to it, and I cannot claim to know very much about it. But if the INEC had declared the result as a seem fit, for those of us who are in the National Coalition for Peace, we advise that any person, if there was violence and whatever has happened, persons must not take the laws into their hands. We appeal to everybody. Our appeal is whatever has happened, be magnanimous enough to accept it as it is, and then seek redress as in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I can assure you that the courts will not let you down. I can assure you that the justice will be done. And for me, what I saw, I voted in all the elections. What I saw, I was very impressed with the beavers. If you look at the numbers coming from every part of the country, the usual hyper numbers that you used to see didn't happen this time. People, when they discovered that they could no longer hype figures as they liked, they resorted to vote buying. And a lot of people too that were giving money before they vote didn't actually vote for the persons who gave them money. I witnessed that in the field. And my appeal is that the incoming president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria must do something to improve on the performance of the of the INEC, especially this issue of beavers, I believe it has come to stay. I believe we can impress on it. Above all, let me thank and congratulate all the political parties. So far, so good. They have controlled, and they have controlled their supporters and their party members. We have not seen serious violence after the elections, apart from some certain states where they said that some people were attacking some opposite tribes. Where those things happen, the National Coalition for Peace, we are appealing to all concerned that please, this is not the time for violence. This is the time for this nation to move forward, build together, and then work together. Whatever it is, winners or losers, all of you won. This is victory for everybody. How we will now build on what has happened, improve on it so that in the next 4 years we don't see such things is what we must think about. As it were, the president-elect has started well. He must reach out to everybody. And then while those who have gone to court, we appeal to the courts to do justice and do the needful. That is our position in the National Coalition for Peace. What we talk about is peace and unity. Because in unity, we stand, and then in unity, we'll make progress for this country. The youths, you have seen, they have spoken, and the president-elect has said, you have heard them, and then things must be done to be able to move this country forward, to give youths the required employment. Employment for youth is paramount to the development of this country. The government must find a way to give youths employment and engage the youths. And the number of youths, they are growing every day. If you go to the labor rooms all over the country, you see the number of births. These children these babies that are being born every day, in 15, 16, 17 years, they turn to youths. And the country must plan properly to be able to accommodate them, make sure that they diversify our educational system, work on it so that people don't believe that except you go to the university, you are not educated. And we must begin to also rekindle our belief in the system of education, the Western education we have inherited. Those of them who brought us Western education, they have been able to stratify education in such a way that not everybody goes to the university. Some will stop at some certain stage and then find what they are naturally given to and then move on to it. When you engage the youth properly, you see that there will be development in the country, and then we will move forward. We appeal to all parties, everybody who feels aggrieved, please accept it as it is and seek redress in the proper way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ojougboh. We'd like Mr. Frank Tietie to comment on both issues, Delta and Rivers.
All right, thank you, Rufai. First, we saw Rivers coming. We saw a governor, an incumbent that was so determined to ensure that PDP won. I think we've also seen a show of, which we have talked so much about, violence and manipulation, with quick reference to Right Honorable Chibuike Amechi's comment with regards to not being very, very dissatisfied with the outcome of the election. But in every race, there must be a winner. As we wind down in the debacle that we have witnessed as elections, whether presidential or governorship, I think it's time we begin to take tone of how we got here, that we have a lot of dissatisfied elements that Dr. Ojougboh is now trying to mend fences at all costs. He himself being a major player in the past in this politicking process. So hopefully, we hope that people, frayed nerves will actually be calm. I'll be quick to rush to Delta and quickly corroborate Dr. Ojougboh's viewpoint with regards to the people, the extraction called the Urhobo people. It is true, there shouldn't be any sort of distinction between the Ojougboh and the somewhat Urhobo people who occupied the Delta Central Senatorial District that has had a long past, even in Bendel State. Sheriff Oborevwori has emerged, the governor-elect today should not be a point of division to the people of the Ojougboh. I share the privilege of having a parentage that one comes from Ugeli and then the other one comes from Oha, which is Ojougboh. So I speak to experience that I am both from Ugeli and Ojougboh, and I'm able to say that they are all one. And one of the questions I would have asked them is that if you looked at all of them, whether it's distinguished Senator of Obioma Agege and Right Honorable Sheriff Oborevwori, together with Chief Gbagi and Chief Great Ogboru, even Sonny Ofehe and the rest of them, they are all from that Urhobo axis. Now, even though Sonny Ofehe is from Misoko, but he grew up in Ugeli, he went to school in Agbaro, so they all were referred to technically as Urhobo people by association. And you can understand, and even though I've been very critical, understandably, of the Okowa administration, but you must give credit to him that he engineered a situation where that PDP zoning formula was actually applicable to the benefit of the Urhobo people. That you find that the major contenders were exclusively Urhobo people. And so the question is, would Urhobo people also reciprocate that same gesture when it comes to Delta North tomorrow, when it's time to say it's time to have a governor from Delta North, and then you will not find big wigs and top politicians from the Urhobo extraction also contending because of the enormity of the votes that they influenced. Over 51% of the votes in Delta, in quote, is said to be controlled by, is said to belong to the Delta Senatorial District. Sheriff is coming at a time where he wasn't even given a chance that he could make it, especially because of a lot of discontentment being registered against him, many of which I don't want to repeat. But you see, there's a conundrum in the Delta election that, given the fact that distinguished Senator Obioma Agege has issued a statement wherein he has rejected the outcome of the election. The first problem there is that how come he won only 4 local governments? Give credit to the current Minister of State of Labor and Productivity, Festus Keyamo SAN. He has also released a statement boasting that even though as an APC stalwart in Delta State, he delivered Uye for Obioma Agege. But he had just 4 local governments, and then he got up 240 votes, 240,000 votes as against the votes of Sheriff Oborevwori, who won the other local governments and then got to about 360,000 votes. The question, therefore, is how come the numbers got so high? My attention was drawn to a phenomenon, a trend, I would say, in this election. And that wasn't peculiar only to Delta State, because you saw that Obioma Agege was actually contending in every local government very seriously with Sheriff Oborevwori. But there were some what we call swing local governments, permit me to express it that manner. And that when the results came, they simply wiped off all of the gains that Obioma Agege was making in all the other local governments. Perhaps that's the reason why he got very high numbers, yet failed to secure a large number of local government. He is contending. There are questions as to whether or not the Beavers' records are in tandem with what was declared. So I don't think it's over for Delta. But again, we must acknowledge one thing, that a winner must emerge. The Sheriff, who was not given a chance at all, because if you look at the gale of defections towards the elections, the PDP had every cause to be worried. They were PDP, staunch PDP stalwarts were defecting at the last minute. Some were even making bold statements that, they were waiting to the last minute because James Ibori's daughter, James Ibori, the former governor, had a daughter who was contesting running for a seat in the House of Representatives under the platform of the PDP. So they needed to stay for that election to be over. And the moment James Ibori's daughter was declared to be the winner of that seat in the House of Assembly, the House of Representative election, they all moved to join the All Progressive Congress and to support Obiama Agege, who is also seen as a member of the very mysterious Ibori family that also produced Governor Kowa, and to which I must say that Dr. Cairo Ojougboh also played a very important role. He's here. Probably he would speak to it. So there was that gale of defection, and then it was now certain, and then you needed to see the very strange overconfidence that was being exuded by the Obiama Agege camp, as if they've already won and they are governor. So I went to Delta and I felt the pulse, and I can tell you that the PDP had every cause to be worried that the election results turned out this way, that Sheriff Oborevori is now the governor-elect. It becomes very, very interesting. Yes.
All right. Okay, in Rivers State, the APC candidate, Tonya Cole, as well as the National Rescue Mission, Jack Rich, have said that they're rejecting the results, that it was marred by violence, and so they were not accepting the result. It would be great to see what the next steps would be. They had a joint press conference. But beyond that, let's look at Adamawa State. So in Adamawa State, the result has been declared inconclusive. As at the time when INEC declared the result inconclusive, it was reported that the governor, Amadou Fintiri, was leading. And why INEC declared it inconclusive was because they said they were not able to call some states, and so they'd have to some local government areas, and so they'd have to rerun in those areas before they're able to, and they would announce the date shortly. What's your comment or analysis on this state, as well as the upset in Zamfara State, where we've had the incumbent Bello Matawale lose that seat to Alhaji Lawal? I'd like to get your thoughts on these two. I'll start with you, Dr. Ojougboh, and then of course Mr. Tietie. Please speak to this.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me comment on some issues that my very good friend here raised. The first of it is that the issue of people decamping in Delta from PDP to APC. You see, what happened in Delta is this. The original members of the APC, they were just sitting down looking, because only Obiama Agege is the owner of the party in Delta State of APC. So as people were coming in, people were just looking at them. So even the people who left PDP to come, most of them, their political values, you can query them. So the result, there was no panic at all as to how the result will go in Delta State. That's number one. Number two issue. You see, in the elections that have taken place so far in Delta State, every time is the turn of the North or the South for them to produce governor. All major Ojougboh people will go and drag it with them. But that time, not this time, our traditional rulers sat and advised all the sons and daughters of Delta North. Look, leave these things for the Ojougbohs. Let them produce whoever they want, because we have served our time. Even those of us who had an eye on the position, we didn't try. So also the Southern Senatorial District, including James Manager. As soon as those decisions were taken, they now abandoned it. And when you look at the people you are saying that the PDP people who decamp, who are the people who decamp? The people who work for PDP, all of them, the major PDP pillars remained in PDP. Take, for instance, James Manager from the Delta South Senatorial District, the former governor, Udwaha, all of them remained and worked for PDP. But that is why the love, you see, the dog says that you fall for me, I fall for you. The play becomes nice. But when only one person took the structure of APC and put it in his pocket, you didn't expect much. And if you look at the result, there is no, out of 25 local government, APC was able to win just 4. And if you look at those places where they won, the margins were very small. So that's why you see that the gap was very huge. In spite of the fact that the APC was running in Delta on the bandwagon effect of the presidential election. They had the support of everybody who is in the establishment. And then, in fact, the incumbency factor was in favor of APC from the federal to everywhere. And yet, it didn't help, just because of the way the party at the national level conducted the affairs of APC in Delta State. Yesterday, I called for the party at the national level to come into APC and take this party back and give it back to the people, so that in the next 4 years, we will be able to sort ourselves out. Let's go to Zamfara State, where my very good friend Matawale contested that election. You know what happened. Matawale was in PDP, and then he moved on to APC. And then the people in PDP, that's usually a PDP state, they remained there. And of course, you can see what happened there. If you go to Adamawa State, you can see the result also. There are things that happen, there are religious issues there in Adamawa that one cannot speak too openly about. It also happens in the National Assembly, when Ete was the Speaker of the House of Reps. Things happened and she was removed. I believe such issues are that are playing out very seriously in Adamawa, but God will intervene, and I believe that this is not a campaign ground. Campaign is over, that I believe that what will happen will happen. Generally, let me say this. The Beavers did a very good job all over the country. And we just need to improve on it. I'm not, because I myself, I know what I witnessed. I took part in all the elections and everything. And I will go back a little bit once more to Delta State. It is now clear that the voting strength in Delta State is in the Delta North. No, people used to think it was in the Delta South. The results that came from Delta South were mainly abysmal. The fishes and shrimps that used to vote in the Delta South, they were not on show this time around. So the human beings came to vote. So the voting strength now is between the Central and Delta North. So that might also encourage some re-strategizing in future elections. But I plead that what has brought peace to Delta should be maintained, that people should maintain this zoning formula that has worked so far for us since 1999. Let us also go back to River State. You see, at times, politics is very difficult to understand. The issue in River State, marry it with the issue in Kano State. In Kano State, you have seen what happened there. It's obvious that NNPP is very popular there. And of course, they were able to drive it. In River State, PDP is actually the party on ground there. So whatever happens there, the courts, I believe that those who are going to court, the courts will be able to resolve it. But okay, I know Ojougboh that my party could have fared better. Even, look at, 1 minute, look at Amechi, who is complaining. When Amechi had the opportunity to run the state and then produce something good for the state, he didn't. He just put the party in his pocket, and his people revolted. All the major players in APC, they left. This is to teach people sense. When you are in a position, remember that there is tomorrow, because things might turn against you. Whatever Amechi wants to say, I respect him. He has been a leader in that state. But he too didn't do well at all when it came to managing the APC in River State. I plead with the national body, the APC, yes, to look into these states and see how we can begin to re-strategize and build a stronger APC that will become the love and the eye of everybody, the apple of the eye of politicians, so that we can attract more membership into the party. Thank you.
Dr. Ojougboh. Mr. Tietie, do you align with Dr. Ojougboh's submissions in terms of the fact that River State is quite obvious that the PDP is quite popular and the APC haven't got their acts together there? Or do you differ? Then, of course, I'd like you to speak to the Adamawa situation and Zamfara.
Well, sadly, as a matter of fact, I agree with Dr. Ojougboh with regards to Rivers State. We saw a very garrulous, ebullient, and boastful Wike, who was also in control of several apparatus of the state in terms of the media, the security, and then a state that boasts with so much resources, financial resources, and then with a lot of developmental strides to support his very arrogant approach to the politics of Rivers State. So he practically bullied the people of Rivers State into supporting the People's Democratic Party. The person who would have matched him, Rotimi Amechi, was busy trying to gain some national relevance, trying to become president. In fact, he tried, no doubt about that, especially on the grounds that he was president. He was said to be President Buhari's anointed candidate, and that's the reason why he made that very fantastic showing at the APC presidential primary. Nevertheless, his roots in Rivers State, he didn't have much control. He didn't have much influence. So the best he could do was to go into the waters and fish for excuses, but very poor excuses for that matter, to be alluding to the fact that there were conflicts of interest on the part of the INEC chairman, and the fact that Wike had unbearing influence on him and the outcome of the election. That was very poor. You should have simply acknowledged that Wike was just a moving train that was unable to be stopped, irrespective of the fact that you had very strong APC politicians like Jack Tienrich. They were not a match to the Wike train. Going to Adamawa State, let INEC be fair. If INEC is daring to declare certain elections in certain states to be inconclusive, it should remember that there were many other states that should have also had the same situation of having their elections declared inconclusive, so that results will not be ultimately announced, and then there will be no winner will be returned until the checks, particularly on the beavers that everybody is now praising. But I wonder why Dr. Ojougboh is praising beavers, whereas the results were not uploaded on real time, and then where calls were made for verifications or recounts, they were also disregarded. So we are yet to test how much beavers has actually helped the elections. In Delta State, well, demographics actually favor the fact that the population in Delta Central, I must just say that in terms of correction before I go to attempting to make an alternative factual analysis before I go to Zamfara. The demographics actually favor the large numbers in Delta Central. But I believe the reason why Dr. Ojougboh here is praising the beavers is because really, as a matter of fact, you needed to see some strange numbers that used to come from the riverine areas, from the Shekiri end, from the Jaw end, that INEC, people couldn't really go to find out what was going on there. You just those results usually come last when they have counted all the results in the hinterlands and the uplands everywhere, and then they now know who is winning. They simply just go to the riverine local governments, cook the figures, and then they come. And just one local government will come and wipe out all the gains that any party who must have been winning before in the hinterlands or the uplands must have had. So that phenomenon may have been cured by the beavers, no doubt, because there's an extent to which you can cook numbers. But those machines, those beavers machines, have not actually been investigated to determine even the large numbers that are no doubt Dr. Ojougboh is now referring to the real kingmakers being the voters in Delta North at this time. The real kingmakers, but that is also subjected to some investigation. But it's good for Delta to think that the PDP has managed it in this manner that the all talked about zoning formula has been well applied in Delta. Go to Zamfara State, a very interesting state. We have a crop of politicians who won by virtue of the mistake of the All Progressive Congress in the previous election, when the Supreme Court actually wiped them out before the election and declared them that they were not qualified to contest election. And then when they came in as PDP, the governorship, they now went back and defected to APC. So we don't actually know where the power base in Zamfara lies, whether it's but I think Metawale was quite unfortunate in the political calculations he made, together with the growing spate of insecurity suffered by these indigenous, or rather the residents of Zamfara at large. People oftentimes yearn for a change, hoping that things will be different if a change comes. And that's what makes Metawale a victim. The truth about it is that we don't yet know what the final outcomes of these elections will be, because I believe that the tribunals will be inundated. Every state will probably will be a subject matter for the tribunals to determine the authenticity, the veracity, and the truth of the outcome of the various elections. Zamfara is one that will also be largely contended in the tribunal, I believe.
Okay, both of you are from Delta State. So for obvious reasons, I would like to go back to Delta State. Both of you, beyond the politics of zoning and ethnicity, what do you think is that big factor that decided it for Sheriff Oborevwori, Speaker of the Delta State House of Assembly, who could not even show up at a debate to come and articulate his views in the matter? So is this a victory for Senator Ifeanyi Okowa, just anointing Sheriff Oborevwori, and just pushing him to the position of governor? In other words, incumbency factor, anointment factor, rather than Sheriff Oborevwori's own personal qualities. Now, Dr. Ojougboh, you were saying that everybody should just accept and allow peace to reign. But Ovioma Agege is saying that no, that he's disputing the outcome in 20 local governments. In 1 in 4 local governments, but he's disputing in 4 local governments, in 20 local governments, from Ika to Ishimeli, to Ukwane, to Aniocha, so he's saying he doesn't agree. So, what do you think about that? Because you are preaching peace. And then the other state I would like us to talk about is Borno State. Hello? Dr. Ojougboh, you were saying something, I can't hear you. I can't hear you in the studio, but if you can hear me, the other state I would like us to talk about is Borno State. So far, 24 states have been declared. But in terms of anybody having a landslide victory, it will look like Borno State is where we should go, where the closest challenger to Professor Babagana Zulum just barely managed to get about 82,147 votes. Out of over, 600,000 plus voters, Governor Zulum got almost everything, just minus 82,147 from what he got. And his party, the APC, was also able to sweep all the 28 seats in the House of Assembly. I mean, that's one state, that is quite different, even if we've seen wide margins in Lagos as reported, and also in Oyo State. But Zulum seems to have had just an easy ride. Some people will say it's not even a landslide, it's a moonslide. But let me start with you, Dr. Ojougboh.
Thank you very much. Let me start from Delta. You see, what made a PDP win in Delta is number one, beavers. With the beavers, you cannot rig more than the accreditation. And that is the basic and the foundation of the election that you have seen today. What INEC has done with the beavers is extraordinary. So after the voting, people will now find a way to manipulate, adjust, and this and that. But the basic thing is that those sorts of votes that used to come from the rivers and everything and the creeks, they didn't come this time. So what you saw is fairly reflective of actually what happened. That's number one. Number two, political party activities. The members of APC in Delta State, I can tell you, apart from myself and a few other leaders, very few people voted for APC. Because what the governorship candidate did was to hope that he will steal the PDP people and they will come and vote for him. Even when those PDP people claim that they came to APC, they will not come down into on the voting day. They will look at the candidate and say, this one that did this, let's better go back to the man we know, the devil we know before. And that's exactly what happened. So a lot of them, a lot of the PDP people still voted for PDP. And the management of the party, it started from the primaries, from the congresses of the party in Delta State. The national body put together a committee of elders made up of 12 elders to manage the process so that everybody will be carried along. I was a member of that body. In fact, I was the secretary of that body. But the 11 of us cooperated. Only the candidate said, well, that he has been given, that the party has been bequeathed to him. He is the owner. He cannot join these lesser mortars. That is a supreme being. So well, we did everything we could. They said, okay, we should leave it for him that he has been declared. He is the only one who can fight the party, this and that and that. So as you will see, me, I don't know how to lie. Most of the leaders during the campaign, they will be dancing and following him and beating drum. Meanwhile, they were deceiving him. So that was exactly, so there was no basis, there was no foundation for APC as it were. And you see, people also see what happens. At the National Convention where the president-elect was elected, events played out there. I don't want to say a lot, but it was obvious who worked for the president-elect and who didn't work for the president-elect. At the presidential and the National Assembly elections, materials were given for work at to the state. A lot of that material was not used, so that APC could not even make 25% in the presidential election. So if APC cannot make 25% in the presidential election, how do you now think that they will now catapult and come and win? It didn't happen, because also the people that were shortchanged, they were also not happy, and so they paid back. So by and large, the beavers made sure that the figures coming out from Central and Delta North, where the population is, and in fact, I'm watching out for the next population census. If beavers is used for the next population census, you will see the population of this country will be properly adjudged. If it is possible for a system like beavers to be employed, I'm telling you, look, the beavers was just sheer magic. Without beavers, you wouldn't get the sort of result that you are getting, that you got in these last elections. Mark you, people are complaining about INEC, what INEC didn't do, and what INEC did, uploading and this and that. That IREF issue starts after the accreditation. So the next place to work now is to make sure that in the next election, the beavers and the IREF are synchronized so that the uploading can be done properly. If I'm not taking more time, let me go to Borno State. Of course, you know the security situation in that state. And what happened, what happened is that a lot of leaders in that state, somebody like Ali Modu Sharif, who is very, very popular in that state, the governor who has performed, Zulum, who performed very, very well, and then the vice presidential candidate, the vice president-elect from that state. What do you expect? Of course, the results could have been very surprising if it had gone the other way. And then if you look at the country as a whole, like those of us who are in the National Coalition for Peace, that's why we are calling on the president-elect that when he comes into office, the management of this country should be.
Okay, we'll take a short break now. Looks like we lost audio connection with the Abuja studio. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nigeria Decides 2023 here on the Arise News channel. We've been talking to Frank Tietie and Dr. Cairo Ojougboh, Pro-Tem Secretary General, National Coalition for Peace and Unity. Well, Dr. Ojougboh, if you can hear me now, you may continue with the comments you were making about the outcome of the gubernatorial election in Borno State and how Governor Zulum managed to just take everything.
Thank you very much. So as I was saying, if you look at the political structure of Borno State, you have the two-time governor from that state, Senator Ali Modu Sharif. You have the governor Zulum that everybody acknowledged had done very well and is doing very, very well. You have the vice president-elect from that state. And of course, you know, he also was a two-time governor and a current sitting, and also he was a senator before he contested, before he was appointed the vice presidential candidate of the party. Now, with this structure there, and then with the bandwagon effect of the APC winning the presidential election, you don't expect anything from what the result you got. If it had been otherwise, people will wonder what happened. It would have seen as a fluke that these three personalities and the structure that they have there and the presidential election victory would have been seen as a fluke. So you can't expect more than that. As I was trying to say, and please allow me to divert a little bit. You see, the president-elect should be mindful, because what we are talking about is the things that will bring peace in this country. The administration he is going to set up must be reflective of the interests of the generality of Nigerians and the sectional interests of this country. There is no doubt that there are tribes in this country. There are no doubt that these tribes must be assuaged one way or the other. If you look at the presidential election that happened, of course, Peter Obi was huge in figures, and he won in 12 states. So the Southeast, there is something happening there that this administration must look into properly. And then the vice president has gone, the president has gone. What is the next position? The Senate presidency. If I were to be one of the advisors, I would ask the president to look into that issue very seriously, because the president cannot say, and the party cannot say, that they are not interested in the management of the National Assembly. If you don't manage the National Assembly properly, the governance will be very difficult for you. I was once a Senate liaison officer, the equivalent of more than the senior liaison officer to the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to two presidents, the late Yar'Adua and the very good man, President Jonathan. And then I saw in real time, yes. So I saw in real time how,
No, complete your sentence.
You have another problem?
Go ahead, complete your sentence. I can hear you.
So
quickly. Because I need to
Thank you very much, my good friend. You know, you always help me when I run into difficulties. That's why, what would I call you now? As an online personality in this country, you have distinguished yourself. And let me tell you, Abati, let me use the opportunity to thank you and to impress on you and impress on Nigerians that you have done very well in this role that you have taken upon yourself. And in fact, you deserve a national honor. So back to what I was saying. So if indeed we must look for peace for this country, the positions that will come, that the president-elect must be reflective of the interest of the general populace and the regions and the tribes. And it is when the tribes in bulk that are happy together that we can have a happy nation. And we have a happy nation, we will have peace. And when we have peace, we can have development. So, as it were now, going back a little bit to Borno State too, you see the issue of the IDPs. All of them are quartered in some particular areas. And when you have people in an area, it is easier to canvass them. So, and then the people who are just returned home to their various communities that they left for over 10, 12 years, they are very happy with the government. So all of them join together to give you the result that you saw in Borno State. Apart from that, the issue of this election that has just taken place, and we also, let me repeat again, the parties have done very well to be able to rein in their supporters and encourage them to continue so. let the battle, if there are any persons who are not happy, let it shift to the court. The courts are very competent. I'm telling you, because they will do justice to the cases. And I do know, though, too, we have some Syria litigants. We have somebody from my state also who is very good at getting victory to the court, and he might not win the election, but he will go to the court and win it. But this time around, I don't think it's going to work like that, because they know his tricks, so the opponents, they're also aware of it, so they will go there also and wait. So that is the issue. Thank you very much, Abati, for allowing me to conclude.
Okay, Dr. Ojougboh. Now, Frank Tietie, back to you. Can you hear me from the studio? We'll take another quick break. When we return, we'll go back to our Abuja studio. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nigeria Decides 2023 here on the Arise News channel. We've been talking to Frank Tietie and Dr. Cairo Ojougboh. Frank Tietie, if you can hear me now, your comment, your take on what exactly the big issues will seem to be in Delta State. Incumbency, anointment by Senator Okowa. I see that Dr. Ojougboh avoided the Okowa side of the story. How strong was the Okowa factor in the emergence of Sheriff Oborevwori, who could not even speak up for himself when he was invited to come and debate? And then, of course, Borno State, where I said Governor Zulum has been re-elected with the equivalent of a landslide victory, both at the governorship level and also the State House of Assembly.
In the emergence of Sheriff Oborevwori as now governor-elect, Okowa was everything. There is no beating about the bush about that. Governor Okowa was having a fight for his life, his political survival. He needed to prove a point. And he mustered everything he had to prove that point, and he proved it resoundingly well. Let me tell you something. The respected Dr. Cairo Ojougboh made reference to the beavers, praising it to high heavens. It is the same beavers that the distinguished Senator Obioma is going to rely on, along with reports of widespread violence, to challenge the elections. Obioma will be going for the kill. But he probably wants the whole election cancelled. He just referred to the fact that Obioma has had a history of winning elections through the courts. They gave him a lot of bullets to do that. But going back to the credential factor, Governor Okowa had every reason to prove that he was not a mismatch with Atiku Abubakar as a vice presidential candidate. With the humiliation that he received with giving the Labour Party results in Delta in the presidential election, Governor Okowa rose up to the task. He also made every effort to etch his name in the Sound of Time as one who actually oversaw a PDP transition. How would it have looked like? That it's only when you mention the story of PDP in Delta State, it's only James Ibori that comes to mind. Now you can also mention Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, because first he managed the zoning formula and conceded it to the Robo people. Thereafter, he now did everything possible, ensured that his own base, the Delta North, delivered resoundingly to the extent that Oborevwori has now won. But Oborevwori is seen as a stooge of Governor Okowa. In fact, Governor, this will interest Deltans, that whereas because Oborevwori is an amiable personality that is well loved and liked by many Deltans, his major problem was Okowa himself, because they thought that Okowa was using him. Oborevwori had problems with his certificates, and the Supreme Court has laid that to rest to a large extent. But he's also seen as someone who has problem with elocution. He's seen as somebody who needs to go for training on how to speak to public. Again, that's a problem. Nevertheless, Okowa came out very strongly, and don't overrule the fact that we had a senatorial election. In the senatorial election where the APC headed Afinoda in line with the history of his own father, the great Senator David Afinoda, delivered Delta Central. So, and then you also saw what happened in Delta South. So, mistake. That was for the APC. However, Okowa made spirited efforts to ensure that the Asaba zone, where you had the base of the civil service, he made sure that they all voted in support of Oboriwori. Now, the problem will be that, I need to also mention one factor which you didn't allude to. That debate was a missed opportunity for distinguished Senator Ovioma Agege. It was clear Deltans are already aware that Oboriwori is a media shy fellow. I love him personally because of my personal relations with him. However, if the Deputy Senate President had showed up in that debate, to have swayed Deltans, to have reminded them at the peak of time why he was preferable to Oboriwori, who was largely seen as Governor Okowa's man, he probably would have, swayed the vote. The Beavers didn't really do much. I think that the results as they are in Delta State today, declaring Sheriff Oboriwori as governor-elect, reflects, even if there was really no violence, if there was, if people actually voted, I think that it reflects the fact that Governor Okowa still managed to make PDP very, very relevant in Delta State. So it was an Okowa factor all the way. Let's go back to Borno State. In Borno State, it's surprising that even in local governments that were so troubled, like Bama, like Jere, like Dikwa, you recorded very high number of votes in support of Governor Zulum. Governor Zulum stands very tall in Nigeria's politics today as a man of integrity, who governs with integrity. So let us remove the factor of Shetima as being a presidential candidate, vice presidential candidate who has already won. No, I think Zulum has earned all the votes that he's got. He's managed all the resources that he's had, small resources, to the extent that states like Delta and other oil-producing states were being accused of how they were not able to match in terms of infrastructure development with Governor Zulum's achievement in Borno. I go back to Delta, where there will be a problem as to, again, now that Governor Okowa has made his point very clear that he is in charge and he has delivered his own man, Governor-elect Sheriff Oboriwori, there will be a lot of discontentment if Sheriff Oboriwori does not rise up to the occasion. A state that has the likes of Dr. Cairo Ojougboh, that many don't know is a medical doctor with sterling medical skills. A state that has a large number of intellectuals, to have a governor-elect or a governor who does not want to speak to the media, who does not want to talk to them in clear-cut terms, will be somewhat like an affront. So it's very important that Governor Okowa has delivered the Sheriff Oboriwori. Sheriff Oboriwori now has to rise up. He has to now go back to school, not certificate school, but practical school on how to speak to Deltans. I will not be surprised if he does very well, because at the time it was said of him that he couldn't even speak good English at all, that he didn't go to school. But the man said, but I have been speaker of the House of Assembly, I've made laws for you, I've signed your laws. And then my friend Mabode Akuga did so well to report him and to disprove the fact that yes, the man could really address it. He came out and then he was also, replying to Ovioma Agege, but he needs to step it up, because that state is a state filled with intellectuals. We are all aspiring intellectuals. All of them come from that state. The state that boasts of the best of intellectuals in Nigeria cannot have such a personality who is media shy. So, by and large, Okowa, again, I would say that he now has a responsibility to manage the PDP the way James Ibori did. Even when it was said of James Ibori that even when he was in prison in London, he was still controlling the party. So now, what we now have is another personality, Governor Faye Okowa, who will now be a former governor, who is now also exert a lot of influence. He will have to stay very close to Sheriff Oboriwori in order for him to succeed, because the powers, the opposition in the personality of Ovioma Agege is not somebody to be written off just like that. If he does not even succeed at the courts, he will probably pose a very, very strong opposition to Sheriff Oboriwori. I think that's the submission I intend to make.
Will he pose? It's not as if he has more seats in the House of Assembly. Please don't encourage Senator Ifeanyi Okowa to assume the role of a godfather If the Delta people have chosen Sheriff Oborewori, let them allow him to do the work. If he doesn't do well, they'll vote him out in 2027. But thank you very much, Frank Tietie. Thank you very much, Dr. Cairo Ojougboh, for joining us on Nigeria Decides 2023.